Okay, second attempt at this video. I don't know what happened last time, but I recorded the whole thing and then it didn't save it. So I'm trying again. Okay, combining functions. So strand D is just about combining two functions. So I'm just calling each function f of x and g of x. So you can add, subtract them like this column, or you can multiply and divide them like the second column shows you, multiply, divide, or you can do these two things at the end here, which are called composite functions, f of g of x and g of f of x, just different ways to combine functions. Okay, so let's just try some. Okay, so here we've got a quadratic and a linear, and we're going to try to add these functions together. I'm going to call my new function h of x, and h of x is going to be f of x plus g of x. So I'm just going to go ahead and add them. X squared minus 4 plus 3x plus 6. And I just might as well collect like terms. So I have x squared plus 3x plus 2. So that's like standard form, the equation. It's a quadratic again. If I wanted to graph it, it would be handier if I could factor it. So I would have it in factored form, which this one was pretty easy. Two numbers that multiply to 2 and add to 3, 2 and 1. So that's easy to factor, and then I could do a quick graph of that. 1 and 2 are my roots, and it's positive, so I know it's going to open up like this. If I had to state the domain and range, I know x is a real number, xcr, but I feel like y is going to be greater than or equal to this guy here, but I don't know what that is. So if I wanted to find out, I would just pick the middle between -1 and -2 for my x value, which is -1.5. And in order to figure out what y is here, I would just sub -1.5 in for x. And if I just do my calculations, that answer will be -0.25. So I know y will be greater than or equal to -0.25. Okay, let's say I want to multiply them. So I'm going to multiply f of x times g of x. Or you could divide them, but we're multiplying. So we have x squared minus 4 times 3x plus 6. I just put them in brackets to multiply them. And instead of doing all that like expanding work, I feel like there's no point. You could just leave it like this. Or even better, you could factor that bracket, because I know that's a difference of squares, so it's going to factor into x minus 2x plus 2, and then 3x plus 6. Because now I can easily see what all my roots are. So if I really wanted to graph it, I could tell here I got a root at positive 2. Right here I got a root at negative 2. And here, if I isolate x, I'll get 3x equals negative 6 divided by 3. And that's another root at negative 2. I know it's a third degree polynomial with a positive leading coefficient. So it's going to go from Q3 to Q1. And it's got a double root at negative 2. So that's what my graph will look like. So a quick domain and range would be xer and yer. Alright, moving on. Let's try this one. F of x equals x squared plus 1, g of x equals sine x. Let's try to find f of g of x. So that just means I take my function, f of x, so x squared plus 1, that's my function, f of x, and then instead of an x, I'm actually just going to sub in the g of x part. So that's sine x. So this outer function here, that's like the main function, x squared plus 1. And then the g of x part is what we sub in for x. So we end up with sine x squared plus 1, or another way to write that would be sine squared x plus 1. So that's f of g of x. I could write the other way around. I could write g of f of x, which would just mean I take my function g, c of x, sine x, and instead of the x here, I'm going to insert my f of x, which would be x squared plus 1. So that's how that works. Let's try another one. Let's try a polynomial. So if we have f of x equals, I don't know, I'm just making this up, 2x squared, and we had g of x equals 3x minus 1, and we wanted to find f of g of x, take our f function, which is 2x squared, 2x squared. But instead of the x, we're sticking in the g of x. So the 3x minus 1. So 2 times 3x minus 1 squared. And we could do the other one. We could do g of f of x. So I take my g function, 3x minus 1, except instead of the x, I'm actually going to put 2x squared minus 1. And I might as well simplify that. I could do 3 times 2, be 6x squared minus 1. Yeah. And just, let me show you one more. So say I had f of x equals x squared plus 2, and I had g of x equals x minus 1. Say I wanted to find f of g of x. So I'm getting my x function, which is x squared. But instead of the x, I'm sticking in the g of x. So I've got x minus 1 squared plus 2. Just a comment on how to leave that. So I wouldn't leave it like this because like you have this random plus 2 here. This is a time where I would actually expand that bracket. So x minus 1 times x minus 1 plus 2 and actually expand the whole thing because it'd be nicer if you have it in standard form versus this vertex form. So that would give me x squared minus 1, so minus 2x plus 1 plus 2. So final answer, x squared minus 2x plus 3. So that way if I wanted to factor it, find the roots, it's easier in that form. And that's everything from D. Oh, wait. One more thing. I could ask you, so say we were doing this question, I could have said too, like, what's f of g of 2? And then all you'd have to do is sub a 2 in for x. So you just go to your equation, sub a 2 in, so 2 squared minus 2 times 2 plus 3. So 4 minus 4 plus 3 equals 3. And that's it. Good luck on the test tomorrow. Hope everyone does awesome. Oh, and if you're watching this, I added, not that you have to do it, but I stuck B3 on the test tomorrow. Just in case you wanted another attempt at B3. And it's just like 3 questions. One where you have to use the compound angle formula. So remember you had to do like cos of pi over 12. And you had to give an exact value for that. So you had to like figure out, okay, what adds to pi over 12? One where you have to prove a trig identity. And one where you have to solve a trig equation. Anyways, no worries if you don't want to do it. Just letting you know. Okay, I don't know how to exit this video. So it's going to continue on until I figure that out. So feel free to stop watching. I pushed help. I don't need help with OneNote. I need help with Snagit. Okay, I feel like it's like F10 or something. Shift F10.